Thanks, Carl. I'm going to steal some of that for my next closing, so I'll take the baton with me. And speaking of stealing things, I steal a lot from our next presenter, Nick Rowley. I do a lot of Breaking Bad close that I stole from him watching his trial in Orange County many years ago. I first met Nick when I was trying a case in Santa Monica downstairs, and he was upstairs. I said, who's this guy wearing cowboy boots? It's like 32 years old, getting an 8-figure verdict in the annex of Santa Monica. And it was Nick Rowley. He helped me a lot that trial. We've been friends ever since. But what you need to know about Nick, his wife Courtney, they travel not only in California, but all over this nation to get justice for their clients. Many states he's tried cases. He has the pulse of the nation. He tries in front of rural clients, downtown Los Angeles, Iowa, Oklahoma, Florida. He's written a lot of books and helped a lot of us, and Nick's going to give us a presentation to show how he gets such high damages in all of his cases. He just finished $15 million down in Stanley Moss with Judge McLaughlin on a retrial against LA Times, where the first verdict was $7.5 million. Apparently they thought that that was too high, so they got a retrial. So Nick hit him for $15 million, Nick and Courtney. So, you know, I guess you get what you ask for. Nick, please give us a presentation. Thank you, Mr. Anchorman.
Is this working? All right, so a couple pointers, just real quick. Have you seen anybody here talking to y'all about closing arguments using a podium? Don't use a podium, ever, a lectern, whatever the hell you call it. Okay, don't ever. No part of your case, don't. You don't need it. If for some reason you need to set your stuff somewhere, and that's the one thing you got, then set it behind you. Don't have something blocking, as a barrier between you and your jury. Don't do it. Don't even stand in front of the table. And if you're in a federal court or somewhere where you're stuck in one of those things, like touch it. You can get away from it. So don't do that. Another thing, you got to know your judge. You got to know your judge. The thing is Judge Jessner, who I have huge respect for, who I've had the honor of trying a case in front of, asked me, she goes, so where's your favorite place to try a case and where's your least favorite place? In brutal honesty, I said, my least favorite place is LA. My least favorite place is LA. You know why? I mean, Orange County, kind of the same thing. Well, at least Orange County, you're going to be in one courthouse. But in LA, it's such a crapshoot. You've got phenomenal judges, but you don't know where you're going to be until the day of trial. Until the day of trial. So you can't give your clients who are so afraid, your experts who have to move things around, you can't give anybody any certainty. And because of the traffic here, one courthouse versus another might mean a difference of 4 hours of commuting each day. So I really, and then you don't know, are you going to be in front of a judge? Are we going to be in front of a judge where we get, 20 minutes for voir dire and you can't talk about, money or dollar figures in voir dire or opening statement? You've got some of those judges here. Or you end up in front of a phenomenal judge. It's just a crapshoot, sadly, even though we're doing our best here in LA. So when we try a case somewhere else, it's like, oh boy, if this case were in LA, it would have taken 3 weeks and who knows what judge we would have been in front of. But know your judges. Find out in advance, who you might end up in front of, and learn what their rules are, because every courtroom has different rules, and it took me a long, long time. It took me a long, long time to figure out how to make what I do work in front of any judge, regardless of who it is. As some judge, you might be in front of some judge who you get up and you argue a certain way or present the case, and afterwards says, counsel, that's one of the best things I've ever seen. And then 2 weeks later, you're trying a case in front of another judge. He says, don't you ever do that in my courtroom. And you got to follow their rules, because picking the jury is the most important thing to do in your case. Picking the right jury, a fair jury for both sides. But you got to have the right judge in order to be able to do that job, right, Steve? You don't have the right judge, the jury you get is going to be a crapshoot. So know your judge and don't cross the lines. If a judge tells you not to do something and this is the line, don't walk over the line. Don't even tiptoe. You don't need to. You don't need to break rules. And that took me a long, long time to figure out, because I'm thinking, well, that judge must just be bad because another judge said I could do that. Now this judge must be biased against me. That's not true. It's just judges have different rules. Just like if I go to your house, if I go to Steve Bardazarian's house, you know, there's a rule. You got to eat whatever he feeds you, and it's usually good. Then you go to somebody else's house, you know, and you got to follow their rules. They might have you know, you might be eating kosher, right? So just follow the rules, whatever they are. All right. Now let's get rolling. So I want you all, because this is about non-economic damages. What I want you to do is I want you to think for a moment of the most important economic asset that you have. What is it? Is it a ring? A piece of jewelry? Is it your house? You own your house? No, you don't. The bank owns your house. That's some bullshit. But you might have equity in it. Is that your most important, most valuable economic asset? What is it? Somebody tell me. Your cell phone? Your what? Okay, your brain, that's maybe, but your house. Economic. No. Economic. Car. All right? Where's Gary Dornick? He has like 15 cars. But, you know, think of it. An airplane. Right? Maybe, what if it was, imagine for a moment that you own the Mona Lisa. Wow. Priceless, right? One of a kind. That's your economic asset. Now I want you to do something. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to think of two things. The most important non-economic asset that's yours. The most important non-economic. Judge Quan, your eyes aren't closed. What's the most important non-economic asset that you have? Is it love? Who is that person? Close your eyes. Visualize it. Come on. You're not closing your eyes. You're playing on your computer. Then you ain't going to get shit out of this. What's the most important non-economic asset? Just think about it. That you have now. It could be a person. It could be a human being. Someone you love. It might be that baby in your belly, Courtney. What does it smell like? What does it sound like? What's it feel? What's it feel like to have that non-economic asset? Is it life? Is it liberty? Is it your ability to pursue happiness? Is it your freedom? What's your most important, most valuable non-economic asset that you have now? What's the most important non-economic asset that you have lost, that you don't have anymore? It's gone forever. Or it's been beaten down, it's been trampled on, it's been destroyed, it's been scarred, it's been stolen. What is it? Mr. Del Gallipo, one of the finest trial lawyers in this state, if not the country, what's yours? What's the one that you lost? Non-economic asset that you don't have anymore?
Death of a family member.
Death of a family member. Loss of a life. As a civil rights lawyer, you fight very hard for, the right to life, liberty, and right? So when we try our cases, in the case that I'm going to talk to you about, most of the time I just throw out economic damages because those things are all replaceable and they're not as valuable. I'm going to talk to you about a case. And we're going to talk a little bit about something that's been going on here in California for a very, very long time. And if everybody in this room decides to do something about it, it will end. It will absolutely end if everyone in this room makes a decision to do something that's selfless. What the hell is going on? There we go. So when we present a case, and we do closing, we do opening, we start out, and right off the bat, this is what it's worth. This is what, it's not an ask, it's a tell. It's worth at least this much. It's worth at least this much. Non-economic damages because of the loss of non-economic assets, the loss of something that's priceless, the loss of something that can never, ever, ever be replaced, something that's one of a kind. That's one of a kind. A human life. That's what the jury verdict ought to be. You as the people, the human beings, the decision makers, the voice of justice, the ones who get to appraise that which was killed. You can say it's worth less and you can say it's worth more. But it would be an injustice if it's anything less than this. Please write it down. Please write it down and ask yourselves, brutal honesty. Be brutally honest with each other. Is this unreasonable? Is that unreasonable? You've heard who she was to her kids? Who she was to her husband? The defense, they said, well, she was just a stay-at-home mom. So economically, she was only worth $600,000. And they got life insurance money, right? We heard the defense say that. But this isn't an economic damages case, is it? No. It's non-economic. It's about the loss of the life, the loss of the love, the loss of the companionship, the loss of the comfort, the society, the fellowship of a mother, of a wife, who ought to be at home on the farm with her kids and her husband right now making supper. But she's not there because she was killed. She was killed because of negligence. And you all get to say that's worth a little or that's worth a whole lot. These amounts are reasonable. They are reasonable. And we're not asking you to punish. This isn't a punitive damages case. If this were a punitive damages case, it'd be $500 million we're talking about that we'd say the hospital ought to pay. This isn't a punitive damages case. This is about compensation and what's reasonable. What's reasonable. And this is reasonable for the value of a life. You go back in that jury room, be brutally honest. You know, look someone in the eye and say, that's unreasonable? No. Yes, it is. It is reasonable. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And you get to appraise the value of this human life. Who she was to her kids, who she was to her husband. You get to do it. You have the power. The defense doesn't have the power. The judge doesn't have the power. Politicians don't have the power. You have the power. And thank God you have the power. Thank God you do. This is where Carrie ought to be. The little girl's alone now. 17 years old. Raising her brothers and sisters. Littlest one was only 4. He met her. Was she a doll? What's the non-economic value of their mother? Is it anything less than $29.5 million? Anything less? She goes in for a CT scan because she was noticing some constipation, something we all have. And the CT scan that we all got to hear about just showed that she was constipated. There was nothing else wrong. There was nothing else wrong with her. But when she had that CT scan, they put that dye in, which a lot of people are going to have. Sometimes people have an allergic reaction. It's just like a bee sting. You put something foreign into the body, and they're going to react. It's going to be, there's going to be some shortness of breath. And if they don't get something, kids carry it around in their backpacks, EpiPens. They get to have it on the bus at school. Epinephrine is the life-saving medicine. The life-saving medicine that all you got to do is go, and then that's it. Stops the allergic reaction. And you've heard the evidence, and you know in your gut, you know in your heart, you absolutely know without a doubt that this would have saved her life. But the doctor left us sitting there on the tray. Every expert witness that the defense called, and boy, did they call in a whole stack of them. Come in, and they said, well, Dr. Slice in the hospital, they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. They met the standard of care. And I said, well, hold on. Was epinephrine, was epi contraindicated? Was epi contraindicated? No, it wasn't, Mr. Jerk. And that's how we do it. Ask questions in your closing arguments. Ask questions. Every expert witness that they paid gobs of money to come in here and say this doctor in the hospital did nothing wrong had to admit, because they were under oath, as much as they tried to weasel around and slide this way and that way, we got them, didn't we? You heard me cross-examine them. You heard my wife Courtney cross-examine them. They all had to admit there was no contraindication for epinephrine. It wasn't contraindicated. It was sitting there on the tray. There were 3 medicines in that kit that's sitting right there when any human being has an allergic reaction to dye. The contrast dye. They're not supposed to die because there's epinephrine there right in the kit. And the doctor gave her Benadryl, which you give somebody, if they have some itchiness. She didn't have any itchiness. She passed right out. Eyes rolled in the back of her head. Started having problems breathing. And the doctor in hospital gave her Benadryl. Benadryl. While she sat there and struggled and fought for her life after they held her down for 25 minutes with her asking the words that she would say. They were only 3 words. There were only 3 words. You heard them. What were the words? What were the 3 words? You're right. Thank you. Please help me. Please help me. But they held her down and they tied her down while her lungs filled with fluid. So this is the question in this case before we get to talk about what it is all worth here in the great state of Iowa, up in northwest Iowa, where these folks obviously think they can pull the wool over the eyes of the jury. They can pull over the wool over your eyes because nobody's going to go up against the hospital or the good old doctor, right? Because jurors won't do that. The community won't stand for that. They're going to just go boom with the doctors. Folks, remember in jury selection, there were a number of folks who had to go because they were brutally honest. They said, you know, I can't be a juror against my local hospital and local emergency room doctor. You can't count on me as a fair, neutral juror. And that amount of money that you say the case is worth, I'd be biased against that. But every one of you made a promise, took an oath and said, I can be that fair, neutral juror. And I can stand up against the hospital and the doctor and appraise this at whatever the value it is. If that's $20 million or 30 or more, I won't hesitate because of bias. And that's you. Because without you, there is no justice. So that's the first question you answer. It's an easy question. That's an easy question. You all can answer that? Really? In 60 seconds. Ask the first question. Is Dr. Slice negligent? You all raise your hand yes, you move on to the next question. It ought to take you less than 60 seconds to answer this one on the verdict form. Do you think it's going to take you longer than 60 seconds to answer that question? No, it won't really. Thank you. So, hold on. We got another question. Oh, I ain't done. You're all staying here. And so Dr. Slice comes in here. What does he say? He looked you all in the eye after taking an oath. He looked you in the eye, and what did he say? What did he say when he looked you in the eye? He goes, well, she didn't deny consciousness. She didn't lose consciousness. She's up walking around. Now in Iowa, you can't say that's a lie. You can't call a witness a liar. There's a published case saying Nick Rowley can't call anyone a liar. So don't do that. You learn as you go. No, you can't. I know that's some bullshit. Judge Jessner says that's bullshit. He said, bullshit. Bullshit, Iowa case. Thank you. I'm going to call you as a witness in my disciplinary hearing. Okay? No, that's some bullshit. You get up, and if you say that witness lied to you, you can't do that in some states. In Iowa, you got to be Iowa nice. So you can do it this way. This is the way I did it in this case. It's another one that got the published opinion. But you say, was that the truth? Right? You don't have to call someone a liar. You can ask the jurors, and I would suggest, even in a civil jury trial in California, because you never know when one court's going to take an Iowa ruling and all of a sudden change shit on you. You never know. Just do it like this. Rather than calling someone a liar or calling that defense lawyer unethical, don't do that. You don't need to. I learned that from Rick Friedman. You don't need to. It's a mentor of mine. You just say, was that honest? Were they being brutally honest? Was that the truth? Had they been, when he said this? Well, you all know, don't you? Why would somebody, if it's not the truth, why would Dr. Slice say something like that? Well, because if she wasn't walking around the room, that's an allergic reaction, and every expert in this case agreed that if there's an allergic reaction to contrast dye, you give epinephrine. And we all know he didn't give epinephrine until after she went into a full code and stopped breathing completely. And by the time they gave her the epinephrine and she bounced back, her brain is dead. Her brain is dead. So we know the epinephrine worked. So bottom line is, he was negligent. He was negligent, he was negligent, he was negligent. And I'm sorry that I'm taking more than 60 seconds to talk to you about this. I just have to do my job. Right? Sometimes we've got to do our job. So I got to do that. All the evidence showed us she had an allergic reaction to contrast dye. Acute respiratory distress syndrome with probable anaphylactic reaction to radiology dye. So all the records we look at in this case, all the medical records, all of them said allergic reaction to contrast dye. And all the defense experts said that requires epinephrine. It's only when it came time for a lawsuit that they changed their mind, and you heard witness after witness after witness come in here and say, it really wasn't an allergic reaction. Wait, is that frivolous? Can't say it's frivolous. Is that frivolous? Does that sound frivolous? When all the medical records say it was an allergic reaction? So, in a case, you want to go through your evidence, and you want to go through certain questions and points, and I do not read them, and I would suggest don't read them. Don't read them, folks. When something comes up, don't sit there, look at it, and say, if we just look at what emergency room physician Dr. Anderson, don't say it. Put it up there. Feel it. Look at it. If you've got a point that's up on a slide, you remember Dr. Matthews? Right, I'm not reading it. You remember Dr. Matthews? He came in here, salt of the earth. Man had been an emergency room physician for 45 years. What did he say? Taught us all here in this courtroom exactly the same way, lectured us and talked to us, educated us, the same way he would a medical resident. So who do we want? See, I'm not reading, am I? No, I'm putting it up there, I'm giving you a chance to see it, I'm feeling it, right? I'm not just sitting there and reading a PowerPoint. So that's how you present a case. Do we want Dr. Matthews teaching our medical residents? Or do we want the defense experts that paraded in here with everything that they said? Who do we want to train our medical residents that are going out there to treat patients on what you do when a person has contrast dye go into their body and their eyes roll in the back of their head and they start having problems breathing? Who do you want to train them? Because if you side with the hospital and the doctor in this case, what you're saying is, we want those defense experts to train our folks because we agree with them. Damn, that's scary. That's scary. So, go through some testimony, as Judge Jessner mentioned, go through some testimony, right? Talk about it. Let the jurors read it. Remind them of the key points. Remember, Dr. Matthews sat in here and listened to the defense expert testify. And what did he say? First question I said, you heard what their defense expert just said. You agree with that? He goes, no. I said, what's your opinion? He goes, that's hogwash. Remember that? Because it is. If you say it is. Well, go through some testimony. How you do a closing. Give them the facts, give them the evidence. And here's the thing, then you want to mix it up. Nurse Schulten came in. She remembered something, didn't she? She remembered something about Carrie. Something special. Something that's gone forever. The brightest green eyes. To this nurse, they were the brightest green eyes in the world. She'd never seen eyes so bright and beautiful. Well, those kids, that husband will never see those eyes again. Because when they rolled in the back of her head, they didn't give her the epinephrine to bring those eyes back. That's what the local doctor and hospital did. They took those eyes away with their negligence. And you all get to do something about it. They're all hoping you do nothing about it. Remember Dr. Slice got up here and testified. She was walking around the room. There's nothing wrong with her, right? She wasn't even conscious. Maybe he was in a different hospital room that day. Dr. Slice told us she's walking around the room. She's walking around the room. But the nurse who remembered those green eyes, she showed you up on the witness stand. We asked her to show us what posturing looks like when she walked in the room after Carrie had that allergic reaction to the dye 90 seconds after that chemical was put into her body. And what did she show you? It was eyes in the back of her head, seizing. The nurse must have seen a different patient than Dr. Slice, who only gave the patient Benadryl. And Dr. Slice, who didn't even remember the color of her eyes. Because the nurse saw Carrie's eyes before they rolled in the back of her head. Dr. Slice did not. She didn't have any difficulty breathing, said Dr. Slice. Everybody else said she did. That's why she needed epinephrine. That's why she needed the same medicine that kids have in their backpacks. And it would have saved her. Their own emergency room, the director of emergency room medicine, who I called to testify, said epinephrine is the standard of care. So why is it that this doctor and hospital are here trying to get away with this? Could it be because they think they can? Could it be because they really think that you're going to let them get away with it? Well, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. You've seen the defense of this case. They obviously do. Go back there in that jury room and tell them they are wrong. They are wrong. They are dead wrong. They are not getting away with this. You all are going to do something about it. All the evidence. All the evidence. The reason why I'm showing you this, fellow trial lawyers, it is the most egregious case of negligence I've seen. And Courtney and I got called into this case just a few weeks before trial, asking if we would do it. And they weren't offering anything on it, because the insurance company said nobody can win a med-mal trial in Northwest Iowa. And we'd proven to them we can win everywhere else in Iowa, but they said not Northwest Iowa. So we came into the case, and then the insurance company, they offered $1.3 million a trial. How much would they have offered in California? You're damn right. We're going to talk in a minute about what we're going to do about that. But they offered 1.3. You never see that offer in California, would you, Ricardo? No. Maybe to you, they're scared as hell. I would. What do you want? Mr. Echeverria. No, but I mean, wow, is that a lot of money? Hell no, that's not a lot of money. So I'm showing you this so you understand, so I can put this all into context for you. All the evidence, the autopsy report, everything. You saw Marianne do it earlier, beautifully. Use that life expectancy instruction. Stack up the evidence, just like Carl did. Talk about, is it, 80%? What does the evidence show when we stack it up? Use a visual. Now, all the defense had were their experts, right? That's all they really had. But you all saw Courtney and I cross-examine them. What happened to those experts? Where did their evidence go? They came over to our side. They helped us prove our case. All the evidence stacks in favor of this family. The law tells us you can absolutely, and maybe you ought to. You can go back there, and it might take you 60 seconds to say, we reject the opinions of all these defense experts. Remember, there's a difference between a fact, right, and an opinion about a fact. And the law says, because the law is smart, the law's been around a long time, you can, and in many cases you should, reject the opinions of expert witnesses. So what is reasonable compensation for non-economic damages? Because that's the way the law defines it. Is reasonable cheap? What's appropriate and fair and logical for over 100 years of a lost life? And you'll see how that all stacks up. Reasonable means 100% of the true value of that which was killed, that which was taken, that which was destroyed, that which was stolen from 4 children and a dad who will go home tonight to their farm without the mother, the matriarch of that household. And because Dad's farming, they're going to have a frozen dinner instead of the warm supper that she used to make them. Reasonable is 100% of the value of her life to her kids, to her husband. Every one of them. It ain't cheap. You get to appraise the value of what this is all worth here in Northwest Iowa. You get to say it's worth a lot, because it is. When the court says you exercise your reasoned judgment, there are a lot of reasons to exercise your reasoned judgment and come back and sign your name to a verdict that says this case is worth that $29.5 million. And then you just got to add up the years. Remember the defense lawyer in the beginning of the case, he says, we all start at zero. Mr. and Mrs. Rowley are saying the case is worth a whole, all this money. Well, this family would trade all of it, any of it, $1 billion to get Carrie back, get their mom back. But they're right, we all started at zero. Every one of us who came into this world in the United States of America, every one of us, we start at zero. And it ought to always be at zero. Because our rights are priceless, but they're rights that you don't get everywhere else in the world, anywhere else in the world. But in our country, since the 1700s, our non-economic assets, they're priceless. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Life, the most precious non-economic asset that people have. It's something that's guaranteed here. And if it's negligently taken away, if that life is negligently taken away, then members of the community get to put a value on it. They get to say what it's worth. Is it cheap? Or is that priceless thing worth a lot? You get to say it. Is it worth a little? Is it worth nothing? The way the defense has tried this case, what they've said, and what they're going to say when they get up here in a minute, that it's worth nothing? And you get to say it's worth every penny. $29.5 million. Every penny. because there's nothing more valuable. There's nothing more valuable if we're going to appraise something. Nothing more valuable that these children, that this husband had, than each other and their mom. Add up all the years. You got the instruction from the judge. Add up all the years. Five different victims here. 4 children, 1 husband, 1 dad. 5 victims. You add up the years. That verse box isn't absolutely true. Mr. DeJong doesn't raise his family himself. His oldest daughter has stepped in the shoes of her mother. You all heard that. So that's not completely accurate. While he's out running the combine and the tractor, his daughter's taking the kids to school. Spend some time talking about their whole life story in closing argument, their time together. This is a visual that hopefully is helpful to you. Using that life expectancy instruction, we evaluate what his damages are worth at 34 years. And you need to give the jurors a calculation. In Iowa, it's 7 out of 8. Here, 9 out of 12, right? Different cases, different places, different rules. So if there's somebody back there who just doesn't agree, who can't be part of this verdict, just give it 6 hours, and then you can come to a verdict without that person. In this trial that Courtney and I did a little more than a year ago, it was a unanimous verdict within 90 minutes. What would it be worth if it was, some painting? Would anyone hesitate or balk or, say, the reasonable value that is $50 million or $100 million? Nobody would blink twice if somebody negligently destroyed something that's one of a kind, irreplaceable, made by a master. Well, Carrie Young was made by a master. She was one of a kind. She's irreplaceable. And she's worth more than any piece of canvas, certainly to her family. Isn't she? Is $29.5 million reasonable? It is. You add it all up. Spent time giving them the calculation, of course, in our closing. Five human beings, their damages, 170.4 years of damages when we add it all up. That's why this number is reasonable. Actually, it's more than 200 years worth of life. Because that was life, it was an asset. Her life, Carrie's life, was an asset to each of her kids. Her life was an asset to her husband. That's over 200 years of life. It shouldn't take you all very long to come back with a unanimous jury verdict, appraising the value of what was taken from these kids and this dad. It shouldn't take you long. It should be a unanimous verdict. And it was. And it was. The jury awarded every penny, and they paid on that case, $29.5 million, all non-economic damages. And here, this is why we're all in this room. This is what I want to talk about. You, sir, with the backpack, walking out. Hold on for a second. Grab that guy. Grab him by the scruff of his neck. Come on, back here. But Carrie DeYoung, that would be a 250 case in California. $250,000, the most egregious malpractice, and it happens. Medical negligence is the third leading cause of death in this state. The third leading cause of death. It is our job as lawyers to change bad law, isn't it? It's our job. Because in Iowa, people are worth more. They're worth more than they are in California. Life is worth more. In California, each and every one of you, that asset, Mr. Gallipo, all of you, your loved ones, they're worth $250,000 dead, soaking wet when they're negligently killed. That's what they're worth, $250,000 after attorney's fees, after costs. That's $150 grand. It's been that way for a long time. You have the ability, each and every one of you, you have the ability to change this. If we stick together, if we do something about it, you can change it. We can get rid of this. It hasn't been changed. It's going to be 45 years. 45 years since this law was put on the books. You can make Californians' lives worth just as much as Iowans. If you all decide to be selfless. That's when this law was passed, Michael. Dead babies. If your baby's killed, $150,000, no matter how egregious the negligence is. The case you told us about, was there a medical negligence aspect to that case?
There was.
Capped at $250,000. Capped at $250,000 because that big delay in getting that aneurysm taken care of, it wasn't just the insurance company. Mr. Echeverria, Ricardo, handled the med negligence case, but because she's a stay-at-home mom, that's a $250,000 case. The case he was talking about. It's heartbreaking because insurance company lobbyists and special interest groups convinced a corrupt governor by the name of Jerry Brown to pass something into law in 1975 when the Vietnam War was still going on, and it hasn't changed to the tune of a penny, to the tune of $1. If we change this ballot measure, come over to the yoga room here in a minute. I'm going to head right over there. It's LaFleur, room 2, and I'll talk to you about the ballot measure with Jamie Court, Consumer Watchdog, a number of us, or Bob Simon, a number of us are working on together. The lawyers up here, we're all working on this together. We're all going to change this together. Come talk to us about it. And here's the way we're going to do it. First of all, it has to start with us acknowledging that we have a duty. We have a duty to change something that's bad. It's our duty. It really, there's not anything more important that we'll have done in our careers. Nothing more important than changing this law. And with the ballot measure, which you look back and there was a measure and people might say, oh man, it didn't pass before. That's because there was horrible voter turnout. We have the polling. Over 71% approval with the way we've written it up. It gets rid of the caps on attorney's fees in catastrophic cases and wrongful death cases. There's so much to it. It gets rid of the collateral source rule. It gets rid of periodic payments. And it also has a provision to make sure frivolous lawsuits are not filed against doctors and healthcare providers. We have to file a certificate of merit and say, hey, we talked to an expert. And there are consequences if we don't. It's the same law that exists in other states. And we're going to get it on the ballot, and we're going to win. But we need to raise at least $30 million to do it. I'm putting up at least $4 million of my own money. My partners are all putting up millions of dollars. One of the things that we do is, as lawyers, we come to this. We come to this and we come to these different, these conventions, these places. We want to learn from each other, right? We do. And we want to help each other, right? I mean, Steve Bardazarian, you've been coming here for how long? 15 years. Who just hit one of the largest verdicts in California history in a personal injury case, over $120 million, $113 million case that he just tried because of coming and learning. And just amazing work that we all do. But we also come here, brutal honesty, hoping. We put up our booths, we throw our events, we sponsor things, we shake hands, we kiss babies, we have dinners, we invite people. Brutal honesty, we all hope to walk away with better business, right? We all hope to get a good case out of it. So here's the deal, and it's not just me. If you call, you want Courtney and I, or my partners, anyone in my firm, to work on your biggest case. And you know how we all split the attorney's fees? Our attorney's fees don't go to us. We do it pro bono. You get the client to agree to give the percentage of money that would go to the attorney to this cause, to change this law. And Mike Alder, Arash Hamanpour, Olivier, the Panish firm, all these guys, all of them, Bob Simon, you talk to any of them. Everyone here, Mr. Echeverria, he said, I'm in. I'll do it. Mr. Broylette guaranteed he'd do it without hesitation. And any of the partners in his great firm. Any of these lawyers who you're meeting with, that you're shaking hands with. Steve Bardazarian, he said, I am in. I am in. They all will commit at least $1 million of pro bono work to have fees on the cases that they work with other lawyers on put in to fighting this. So that means you need help on a case? All right. Case, it's worth $500,000. Mr. Bardazarian or Mr. Broylette, any of these lawyers up here, Ricardo Echeverria, Rahul, gee, boy, talk about verdict. Did you ever say no to that guy? I don't know a jury that has. Right? Bob Simon, anybody here. Marianne Gallagher, she'll step up. Judge Jessner, she's going to give up her robe just to come do this with us. Check her out. She's motivated. Right? We'll say, okay, so these are the attorney's fees. I'm not going to take $1 million in attorney's fees. $1 million in attorney's fees on this case will go to this effort to raise that $30 million. In any case that you ask me to help on, and I have limited time. I've got kids, a lot of them, one on the way. Any case that Courtney helps you on, we will donate 100% of our fees on a case, on 10 cases, to this effort, as well as putting our own money up. And if you all can do something, if you can put money into it, great. You'll hear more about it later. I'm not going to ask you for that now. Reach out to me. Reach out to us. If you have advertising, you can't put up money, $1 million like these other folks can and will. But if you can give us your billboards, give us your TV space in the months of July, August, September, October. Jacob and Ronnie, where are you? Jacob and Ronnie, we need your billboards to educate the public. Right? TV commercials, you name it. Give us your advertising space. And make a change for this state. Make a change for this state. Listen to this. You can make a change. You can make a change. You can do it if you commit. Annette, thank you for your courage. It takes my breath away to listen to you. It leaves me speechless. It really does. The thing is, this is not an attack on doctors. It's not. In 1975, doctors were protesting, saying, pass this law, pass this law. And Jerry Brown said to Tom Girardi, who's in the room, he said, Tom, they're protesting. I'm going to sign this. It's bullshit. It's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court won't uphold it. That was 2 years before I was born. 2 years before I was born. I served in the armed forces as a medic. And in 1998 is when I first handled my first medical malpractice case as a law student. I learned about this cap. I said, wow, this is insane. This has gone on for 23 years. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. But the doctors who were protesting, they were fed lies and propaganda from the insurance industry who told them, listen, this is going to reduce your rates. It was a lie. It was a lie. And doctors need to, I want you to hear me. This isn't an attack on you. Stand with us. It's the right thing. If we believe in civil rights, if we believe in our civil justice system, this is horrible. Horrible. And it's not that the cap should be increased. No, that didn't work. It's got to go. It's got to go. And if we stand together with truth and honesty and an open heart, the thing is about this 2020 election, people's eyes are open. People's eyes are open like they've never been open before. We can make a change in 2020 if we stand together and stand strong. I have a little video I want you to see. Thank you. Gary Dordick's in.
Mia was 8 weeks old when her heart stopped beating because of medical negligence. She will live with brain damage and cerebral palsy for the rest of her life. Because of a law passed in 1975, negligence victims in California like Mia have been capped at $250,000 as the maximum compensation they can receive for lifelong, non-economic damages, such as loss of enjoyment of life, pain, suffering, emotional distress, and disfigurement. Wrongful death damages caused by medical negligence, loss of love, companionship, and a relationship of a loved one are also capped at $250,000. For 43 years, every attempt to change this cap has been defeated by the insurance companies who make billions of dollars in profits by keeping the cap in place. Tanaya's parents insisted in their birthing plan that under no circumstances would forceps be used when delivering their baby. The delivery doctor used forceps anyway without permission and crushed baby Tanaya's head, causing her brain to bleed, sentencing her to a life of cerebral palsy and living in a body that will never work. Sophia was in life-threatening distress without oxygen while her mother was in labor. Because of medical negligence, she suffers from spastic quadriplegia and cerebral palsy and lives in a body that will never work. These are three of many thousands of examples of lives that have been irreparably damaged by medical negligence. Getting rid of the $250,000 cap will not increase the cost of health care or insurance. Those are insurance company lies. The truth is that getting rid of the cap will save taxpayer dollars, reduce health care costs by making the insurance companies of the medical institutions and groups bear the responsibility for the costs of compensating negligence victims. And importantly, getting rid of the cap will put an end to over 42 years of dishonesty and lying to California juries who are not told that their verdicts are reduced to $250,000. In California, since the cap was out in place, medical negligence has become the third leading cause of death. That's according to the American Medical Association studies and research. In 2020, voters, independents, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, all voters who care about equality, being honest with juries, civil justice, and who believe that patient rights are more important than insurance company profits. Voters will have the opportunity to get rid of the cap that insurance companies, their lobbyists, and bought and paid for politicians want to keep in place for another 42 years.
So, you reach out. Thank you for giving me the honor of being your trial lawyer of the year. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 1:30 we will have a master's panel. We have the Velvet Hammer, Karen Kohler's here, we have Dale Gallipo who will be on. And if you don't have the money to donate, guys, it's as powerful as your cell phone. We have the ways to reach people directly with videos like this, to reach audiences so the voters are more informed and do the right thing.